Welcome to the SiftPop Weeklies.
Hi.
Live on the YouTubes.
Yes.
We are glad you're joining us. I'm Aaron Andrew here.
Happy holidays.
It is, 3 days from Christmas?
I don't know.
2 days? I think it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Technically is Christmas.
We had our Christmas today, so I don't even know anymore.
Oh, nice. We did a little studio Christmas, too. I gave some gifts and...
Do you mind if I show them?
No, go ahead.
Oh, man. I got, from Aaron, a jean jacket with a whole bunch of Dolomite swag on it. What are they? Flare. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Flare.
Yeah, call it flare.
Yeah.
No, it is absolutely the holidays. Thanks for joining us for this live look at the SiftPop recording. We try to do this every time we record. Having said that, we won't be doing a live video next week. We will just be recording audio next week, so I wanted to give you a heads up on that. But welcome. It looks like there's several people watching, so if you have anything you want to chat about, anything you want to say, this is the most interactive part of the video show, is right up front and then maybe at the end. Because in between, we're recording the podcast, so we're kind of focused on that content as opposed to paying attention to the live video audience. So now would be the time to get in those comments and maybe just say what's going on. Tater65 says, "Hello, I'm here. Don't worry." Whew.
You know, every single week, we're like, where's Tater?
Where's Tater65? And thank you. It is much appreciated. I will stop worrying now. So Striker Watch says, "I made it. Finally."
Yeah, you did. It's a Christmas miracle.
We're glad to have you. If it's your first time, that's awesome. We love hanging out live doing this thing. It kind of adds another element to it. One of the things that I've heard people talk about that watch the live stream is just seeing all the behind the scenes of like when we flub during the podcast and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of see what the environment looks like. And it just kind of adds an element to it.
Well, to be fair, it's whenever I flub. You got this down pat.
No, I do not. I certainly have my own flubs. Jay Bourgeois says, "I'm obviously interested in Star Wars, but can't get enough of the Cats discussion, despite having no desire to see it. It has kind of taken the world by storm, so that'll be a fun talk."
You're not the only one who doesn't have any desire to see it.
Striker Watch also says, "Have you guys watched Witcher on Netflix yet? Have you watched any of it?"
Yes,
I have not.
I have. I've seen the first episode.
Yeah, I'm going to watch a few episodes and see what I think. Do you think it's any good?
Oh, I'm loving it, but here's the thing. I can definitely see how this could be a very confusing show for people who are not familiar because they keep referencing like
video game stuff?
No, book stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like Nilfgaard, like places and names and stuff that...
Did you say Nilfgaard?
Nilfgaard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nilfgaard.
Yeah,
okay.
not Milfgaard.
Okay, I was just curious. I was just wondering. I was making sure my ears were hearing correctly.
Yeah. But places and names, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know that already, but I could definitely see how that could potentially be confusing. Yeah. I will say, though, Henry Cavill, he's great as Geralt of Rivia, man. I mean, I was kind of skeptical, but even one episode in, I'm like, nope, they did good. They did a good job. So
yeah. Jake M says, "Star Wars was amazing. Who do you want to direct the next trilogy starting in 2020? I'm excited for the Rian Johnson trilogy. I'm excited to see what he does. What would your answer be? Because they haven't officially canceled the Rian Johnson trilogy, as far as I've heard.
No.
Andrew doesn't want another trilogy in 2020.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. Much appreciated on a Sunday afternoon. By the way, I guess I should also mention, we're kind of moving our typical schedule to Sunday afternoons at 1 p.m. Central. It will shift and change as always. Don't take that as gospel, but that is kind of what internally we're shooting for. Just so you're aware, if you want to join us, it will be on Sunday afternoons now. So, just wanted to let you know that. All right. So also one more thing to the video audience, since many people have mentioned it. No, I have not gotten more blurry in real life. I actually still look exactly the same in real life. The camera we're using for our center camera has a blurry, I guess that would be my side, right side, your left side as you're looking at it.
Stage right.
So yeah, stage right is blurry on this camera. So it's not your machine. It's not that, but we are looking to fix it long term. So that's in progress. Thanks to our SiftPop members, by the way, who make that kind of stuff possible. So
isn't it the Ring where like people start getting blurry in the in the camera feeds and stuff like that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cursed.
7 days.
Basically, that's what it means. It means I'm cursed. One more. Joey Faubert says, I don't know if you've both seen it, but do you all like The Mandalorian? Yeah, we haven't done much Mandalorian talk on the show, have we?
I guess next week is the final season finale. We said whenever the season finale, we'd come back and revisit it.
So it'll probably be second, maybe even third week in January before we get a chance, just because of a lot of the end of year stuff that's going on.
Have seen it though.
Yes, we were both watching it.
Yes.
I've all caught up. I watched the episodes the day they were released. I'm really enjoying it. But we'll talk more about that in detail.
I will say that this latest episode is the best episode so far, I think, in the show.
Yeah, I might go along with that. Yep. I'd have to sit down and think about it a little bit more, because there were a couple other episodes I really liked.
The third episode, I think it was really good. And This is the Way or whatever it was.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah, that was a good episode. Thank you for that question, Joey. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. We're going to get things started. Phil, are you ready for me to give you a countdown for the podcast? All right.
From a bunker.
Apparently, Andrew's doing it today. All right, here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that wants to attend every single version of Burning Man across the entire universe. It's SiftPop. Other planets Burning Man would be awesome. Right?
It looks fun. I mean, I haven't even gone to this planet's Burning Man
That's
yet.
Right. Maybe we should start there.
Yeah.
Welcome to SiftPop Weekly, streaming live. Most weekends are available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Do it.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and without him, I would have just been solo. He's my co-host, Andrew Ormsby.
Oh, use your anger.
And each week, we'll chat about movies, television, whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. How you doing, buddy?
I'm well. How are you?
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that stuff going on here in the next couple weeks.
Yes,
so
it's that time of year.
You just came from your family Christmas?
Yes, had a jolly old time.
Nice.
Good to see everybody. I'm full. I put on definitely some poundage.
Yeah, I am fighting the battle of the holiday weight right now, because I've been losing a lot of weight recently. You've
been doing really good, man.
60 pounds over the last several months, and I've
been picking it up.
Well, I've shifted into just okay, let's just not gain anything by the end of January. That's if I can get through the winter where you just want to veg and be warm and put on pounds
get
for
a big old
insulation.
Cup of chili just
if I can get through that. And then Christmas, where there's baking and cookies, and my wife made Muddy Buddies today.
Muddy Buddies?
Well, it's the Chex with the sugar and the peanut butter, and people call it different things.
Okay.
Christmas crack, I think some people call it. Whatever it might be.
I'm gonna stick with Muddy Buddy. That seems a lot more seasonal than Christmas crack.
So, which is what I get when I'm bending over to, fix the tree. I get a little Christmas crack.
That's no moon.
That's right. So I'm fighting the battle of that, and then New Year's we visit with friends and just like to eat and eat and eat.
Yeah.
And then the awards happen.
And then you put on all that beer weight too.
Yeah, of course. Yes, all that beer I'm drinking.
Yes.
So by the time I get to the end of the January, if I can just be where I started, I think I'll be happy, and then I can start losing weight again.
There you go.
Whew, we also have one of our traditions for Christmas Eve is, as a family, we go out to one of those places where they cook the food in front of
restaurant?
a hibachi grill type. Yes, restaurant. Yes, that's what it's called. I couldn't remember there for a second.
No, hibachis.
Yeah, we go to hibachi every Christmas Eve for a tradition, and man, do I love the noodles at hibachi places. And so,
oh man, we have
those
one
carbs
local.
Just whew.
We have one local called Hinode's. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about.
No, we prefer Fuji's.
Oh, okay. Fuji.
We can have the Fuji Hinode battle at some point.
I will fervently die on the Hinode hill.
Yeah,
Hinode
I'm a
hill.
Fuji guy. Fuji guy. Yeah. No, so
that's a good band too.
The Fugees.
The Fugees.
Oh, the Hinodes? I never heard of them.
No, the Fugees.
So I'm just trying not to gain a lot of weight. But I am trying to think about Star Wars, and that's what brings us together today, Andrew.
It's beginning to feel like Star Wars is the new holiday film series.
Right?
Because they all come out on Christmas.
I think Disney would like that. I think Disney would like that to be a thing. However, they kind of have fumbled it, right? Like, they put Solo out in the summer.
Oh.
So, no, I'm not giving my opinion on the movie yet.
Yeah.
But they put Solo out in the summer instead of the holidays, and then it just kind of became, well, maybe not. And they don't have anything scheduled next Christmas, right?
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But
yeah.
So yeah, we're going to talk Star Wars. We're also going to talk Cats.
Oh, you saw Cats?
So that should be interesting. You didn't see it?
What was I supposed to?
It was on the list, man. It was on the list.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Star Wars Cats in 1917. This is why we read our emails, Andrew. This is why we read our emails. That's fine. I'll talk about Cats.
How about that? Cats and 1917. I've seen 1917.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
You have seen.
I guarantee you I know what happened.
In Cats?
No. Well, I've seen the play. I've seen the Broadway musical.
Yeah.
But in the email, I didn't get past the time because I was like, oh, that time's not going to work.
Oh, and you had to switch the time.
So I just immediately went to reply email. So
yeah. Read the whole email, I think, is the lesson here for everyone. Always read the email. No, it's fine.
Derp.
I am in many ways thrilled for you that you didn't have to sit through Cats. So spoiler on how I felt about the movie.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that as well as some, of the usual stuff like our buried treasure at the end. And we'll kick it off with some Do We Care?
Every single week, I
sang that one.
I did, yeah. It was, the holiday coming out. Where was I? All right. Every single week. Yeah. You threw me off air. Now I can't do it. Every single week, I scour the internet to find out what is going on in the entertainment world. I pick some topics for us to discuss, and we must decide, do we care or not? Number one, this is the week of reboots. We have Power Rangers is being rebooted.
It's the decade of reboots. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Stephen King's Firestarter is getting rebooted.
Wow.
Lego is switching studios.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
I don't know. I loved that everything was awesome. I loved that everything was cool and we were part of a team and we were living the dream,
Yeah.
But
did the song get stuck inside your head is the question.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's my favorite song ever. Oh my gosh, I love that song. But yeah, man, it's just why reboot it? Or I understand, a production company, having to, they can't carry that same because it's Lego the company switching studios. It's not like the property of Emmett, and that whole gang is switching properties as well to a different studio. But it's just weird, like things are so quickly being rebooted now that it almost seems like.
Well, do you think they're going to reboot the Lego movies, or they're just going to a new studio, so that new studio will pick up kind of where they left off?
Yeah.
Do you think they'll do a whole? Certainly, they won't. I mean, people love Emmett and
I know
that gang. Like, yeah, I think they'll keep doing the same thing. I just think the Lego hit really fast and really big, and they did what every studio is going to do, which is try to cash in on it quickly. And they made like so many. You had Lego Batman, you had the Ninjago one, or so it's not surprising to me that the studio's like, well, this doesn't seem to be working because they kind of milked it so fast, Yeah,
but I might be in the minority, but I think Ninjago is the only one that's not good. I think the other three are hilarious.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about returns, right?
I know, yeah. But what I'm saying is I'm surprised that more people weren't like me and like, oh, a new Lego movie, and they just flocked to the theaters,
Yeah.
I think the first one took them by surprise. I don't think they expected the first Lego movie to be as big as it was. Even with a cast that size, that's another thing about the Lego movies is they get some amazing talent to be in those things.
Well, I am a big fan, and part of the reason I'm a big fan is because they kind of invented their own animation style too. Like, and it's
kind of stop motion.
Yeah, they kind of own this Lego animation style, and I think that's kind of cool. So I'm excited to see more. I'm glad somebody picked it up.
Yeah. But yeah, Power Rangers, that's getting rebooted already too. So
I thought the Power Rangers Krispy Kreme movie was fine.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme
presents Power Rangers.
Number 2,
Yep.
Since I'm going to be talking about cats anyway, so how about that? Yeah. Universal Studios has sent out a message to all theater chains telling them that the CGI in Cats is being updated for...
Right? I'm so glad we're talking about this. This is insane.
This movie's out in theaters already, so people are already watching it, and I guess it has bad CGI. And the theater...
just incomplete.
Incomplete?
Just incomplete. There are moments where the actors... obviously just have their real hands inside, a cat costume.
Yeah.
And then there are scenes where they're like CGI'd to look more like blended into it was really strange. And there are many signs that this movie was in trouble. And one of them is that for award season, like nobody got screeners.
Yeah.
They were finishing it off. I know they sent the voters for the Golden Globe nominations like a really incomplete version.
Yeah.
And apparently he was working on it. Tom Hooper was working on it right up until release day, trying to get stuff finished up. So it's not surprising to me that they missed some stuff. But man, just hold off. Did you really think you were going to win some award? Like, what did you think was going to happen? That you were going to get it out and there was going to be a groundswell of, you knew you had an incomplete product. Just wait.
Yeah. It's surprising to me that it seems like they're going the route of video games, because video games will release and be sold incomplete and just be patched.
Right.
It's like they're patching movies now.
Yeah.
This better not be a new precedent being set here.
Little DLC for movies.
Yeah, the Cats DLC, the Cat Pod DLC.
Have you seen the update? They did a new update on the Rise of Skywalker. It's out this week.
Oh yeah, fascinating. That's gonna wrap it up for Dubicare.
Very nice. Well, we've got plenty of movies to talk about. Let's kick it off with Star Wars. You want to talk about Star Wars?
Let's start
All right,
Star
Wars: Rise of Skywalker. The surviving resistance faces the First Order once more as Rey, Finn, and Poe Dameron's journey continues. With the power and knowledge of generations behind them, the final battle commences. Is that battle in the movie, or is it in the critics' discussion of the movie with the fans? I think we should start here before we do the like it, love it, dislike it, hate it. It was just okay.
Okay.
You'd have to be hiding in a log not to know kind of the toxicity or fan discourse, over Star Wars through The Last Jedi and even with The Force Awakens a little bit. Like,
I don't know if toxicity is the right word. Maybe passion, like verbal passion, like.
Yeah. Well, for some. In this room, it's been verbal passion, but on the internet, there are some very toxic fans who live to disparage and be mean. But welcome to the internet in 2019, right?
I was about to say, are we surprised by people being mean on the internet? I mean, that's what it's for, right?
All I'm saying is it's a good place to start that this movie is facing some different kind of odds than most movies face when they come out. Like there's obviously been, well, like you and I disagreed on The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
lots of people disagree on The Last Jedi, and that quote unquote fight has been going on for 2 full years. Like it never died down. Like even now, if you post something on Twitter about The Last Jedi, RIP your mentions. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's kind of one of those situations.
I also think that, specifically for Last Jedi, it's being reignited by this new movie. I assume. Obviously, I don't have Twitter, so
that's true.
I don't have to live in that nightmare of a world. You want to talk about toxicity? Twitter.
There's more good than bad on Twitter, in my opinion. But maybe it's just the people I hang out with.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
I want you to go first.
I really liked it. What?
Oh man, I was because the passion that you and I both had for The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And
I love The Last Jedi.
And how divided we were.
Yeah.
On that movie.
Yeah.
I was hoping that we would be able to put all that behind us and we'd be able to start anew. This is the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, interesting.
I
had a lot of problems with this
previously, movie. Last Jedi was my least favorite Star Wars movie. But this makes Last Jedi look good.
Well, Last Jedi is good, but we can save that conversation for another day. I loved Last Jedi. I really had a good time with this, but I don't love it. There are a lot of flaws in this movie. Part of the difficulty for me in kind of assessing what's going on here deals with what we were talking about, because I have my own biases. I have my own personal likes and dislikes, and one of the things I love about The Last Jedi that they allowed Rian Johnson to do was he took risks. Like, he did things.
You think they allowed him, or they found out later?
I don't know. I would assume, from things that have happened on other Star Wars movies with directors being removed and those kind of things, I would assume they were keeping tabs. But who knows? Anyhow, I like that they allowed him to kind of say, here's what you thought was important. Here's what this movie is going to say is important. And I think a lot of the backlash against the movie, rightly or wrongly, depending on your perspective, had to do with that it wanted to flip things on its head a little bit, right? And I liked that it was saying, for me, The Force Awakens was great. Loved The Force Awakens. But it was J.J. Abrams basically doing A New Hope, right? And that's kind of been the main knock against it, is it has the same plot structure, same basic idea. It's even another Death Star. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing is very similar. But then Rian Johnson makes The Last Jedi, and in my opinion goes, okay, we don't have to copy what's been done before. We're going to play in this sandbox and do some new things and interesting things. And so I really liked that. And then Rise of Skywalker basically just says, no, we're going to run back and do everything we've done before again. And that was one of the main things I struggled with, was like, it feels like you're undoing everything I loved about The Last Jedi. And
Interesting.
So that was my bias going into it. So what I tried to do is I tried to set that aside and go, what about this movie I'm watching? If let's say JJ had made all three and they were all just like this,
Yeah.
How would I feel about this movie? And I think there's enough good here that I'm excited to watch it again. I'm excited to see some stuff from it again. So, and I'm excited to talk spoilers, to maybe go into a little details.
We are going to have a spoiler episode, people.
Yeah.
This is how I looked at it.
Yeah, tell me your experience.
So, it may sound cheap, but I'm going to kind of blame Rian Johnson for this movie too.
I figured you would.
Here's why. Because the analogy I'm going to use is like a Dungeons and Dragons, little thing. Like the DM opens the door and says, here's a Titan in the middle of the room that is sleeping. You need to find a way to get past the Titan, and there you'll find your treasure. And there's two people in this party. There's Ryan, son of John, and there is Jar Jar Abrams.
Jar Jar Abrams.
Yes. Ryan, son of John, is a little rogue.
Okay.
And then you got Jar Jar Abrams, who is this big warrior who's like, I know what to do. We shall be sneaky and go around him. I have 3 plans, that we must follow in order to get to that treasure, and everything will be good. Mm-hmm. But then you got Ryan, son of John, who Leroy Jenkins runs right at the giant and starts poking him in the nose. And then Jar Jar Abrams is like, oh, I guess we got to deal with this now. I didn't plan on it, but now we got to deal with it. So that's how I'm looking at it. Like, J.J. Abrams, like, here's my 3-step plans for these movies. I'm not going to direct the middle one, but just so you know, this is my overall story that I have going for it. And then Rian Johnson comes in and is like, no, that's not how I want to play. And then he just totally destroys the second movie. And J.J. Abrams is trying to play catch up now because he has a deadline. He has to make a movie for it to come out in 2 years now. After
originally it was Colin Trevorrow too, right? Like,
yeah.
So
Trevorrow was supposed to do the third one. That's right. He got lucky. But then. So that's how I'm looking at this movie. I'm like, J.J. Abrams is like, well, I'm trying to do what I originally wanted to, but then I'm also throwing in stuff that is trying to either retcon stuff that happened in The Last Jedi, or trying to make it work in the story I already had laid out.
Yeah. Well, here's and I don't want to state it as 100% fact. But I'm pretty sure JJ has stated he did not have an overall plan. He was given one movie. He wasn't planning on doing 2 or 3 at the time. Remember that?
Yeah.
So he was told, here's your movie. I think the fault, and I'm not saying that you're wrong about there needing to be fault in how disparate these movies are. Like, just like, whose fault is it that there was no plan, or that there, that kind of thing? And I mean, for me, it falls on Disney. It falls on them not having a Kevin Feige to oversee it and go, here's where we're going with this. You direct this part.
Yeah.
So,
like, even the prequels had an overarching story that would go over 3 movies.
Right, because there was a plan for the 3 movies.
Exactly.
In this case, they really told, from my understanding, they really told these directors, you write your own story for each movie. And it's just one of those things where it's like, man, that seems really careless, right? It seems, I mean, listen, in another world, it could have worked. Who knows? In another world, somehow you have things that go together. But these 2 movies, especially Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, are arguing with each other.
Yes.
They are not on the same page. And so when you look at this as a trilogy, it's a mess. Like, it's a complete mess.
I'll say this right now, the prequels are better than this
as a trilogy. Like,
as a trilogy.
I don't think I'd go there, just because I think I enjoy more specific moments through all 3 of these movies than I do through all 3 of the prequels.
No, man.
That's just my feeling.
Yo, sure, yeah, but not for me. Like, it's just, this movie is such a mess. So, you like this movie.
I do like it.
I'm going to let you start with some pros.
Okay.
I don't have many? Yeah.
What about Adam Driver? I thought he was incredible.
Man, he was way better in Rise of Skywalker. In Last Jedi. In Last Jedi, I was like, okay, if there's one thing I like about this, is Adam Driver is just really driving this home, this character development stuff.
Is that intentional? Driving it home?
No, that was accidental. Okay. And then in this one,
Daisy Ridley was a ray of sunshine.
She was a ray of sunshine, yeah. And in this one, I'm like, yeah, it's like that passion, that the anger and ferocity that I saw him, whenever he came face to face with Luke and stuff, or how he was being tormented and like trying to conflicting with his view of Snoke and stuff. All that stuff, he never lived up to that in this for me.
See, what I thought his performance in this was maybe even better, because he had more work to do in character development. And without going into spoilers, he was asked to have this character go to some places that I think within any other hands would have seemed completely ridiculous. And even as talented as he is as a performer, still couldn't quite pull it off 100%, but somehow managed to pull it off, in my opinion, like 80%. There's some character movement that goes on with Kylo Ren that I think is pretty astonishing. The work he does, the subtle work he does, acting. So I thought he was great. I love Daisy Ridley. I love the character of Rey. I should say that. I am such a huge Rey fan. And I think, honestly, overarching this trilogy, maybe one of the reasons I come away from all 3 of these movies enjoying them is because I love her story, I love her character, and I love who she is. She's one of my favorites.
I hate Rey now.
You hate her now?
I hate Rey.
Oh, interesting.
Like, because nothing...
It was okay when you didn't like the movie, Andrew, but now you're talking about my Rey, so just be careful.
No, Rey became boring for me. Like, she became way too powerful with very little training.
She's been training. This movie shows she's been training.
Yeah.
I mean, what about Luke?
Luke had Yoda. Luke had Obi-Wan.
Rey has Leia.
No, she is too busy being a general of the Wood Rebellion.
All right, agree to disagree.
Oh, okay, here's a pro. I think that they handled Carrie Fisher very well in this.
I do too. And I know they had said originally they weren't going to do any CG. There is CG here, obviously. And I did have that feeling where, and maybe it's my own distraction, but I had that feeling where I'm like, okay, so you took lines you knew you had her saying and then built the lines around them, which is all you can do. And it works just about as good as you could ever hope.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did like that. I think it is very evident that the heart of each of these movies in the trilogy was supposed to be a different member of the original three. Yeah. I think the heart of Force Awakens was supposed to... I think this was... If they had a plan, I think this was the only plan they had.
Yeah.
That the heart of Force Awakens would be Han, the heart of Last Jedi would be... Or the second one would be Luke, and the heart of the third one would be Leia. So and it's very sad that it wasn't able to fully be that way, and yet she does have, a real part of this movie.
Yeah.
And they managed to do that. So I think you're right. I think that is definitely well done on that.
And by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there so you know what you think is like the big like reveal in this movie or whatever, the big surprise. It's in the trailers. So
well, I mean, obviously,
somebody.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we could talk about that.
Part of me wants to say no, just in case, but I am, me, I'm trailer versus anybody out there, and I knew before the movie just because it was, such a
big thing.
A big thing, and honestly, I think they wanted people to know going in, so it wasn't a big thing during the movie.
Yeah.
And literally the opening crawl.
Yeah.
Just has an opening crawl ever done so much exposition as this one?
This is like it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
It was just like it was like, okay, let's tell you about all these things so we can...
Surprise!
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the word surprise just didn't right after Star Wars. Surprise! Not surprised.
So yeah. What did you want to say something? Did you want to know if you could say that in the non-spoiler thing because you had something to say about it?
If you think, just in case there's one person that's listening that we don't want to ruin that for,
right?
Let's save it for spoilers. That's what I was asking.
Sure, we can do that. I don't.
Yeah.
There
are so many unanswered questions in this movie, like story arcs that were introduced in this movie that were just thrown by the wayside or completely forgotten about by the
Introduced in this movie or previous movies?
In this movie.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Things are mentioned, like a character will say something like, da-da-da-da, exposition, da-da-da-da. And we need to do this, and it's never brought up again. Or I need to tell you something, da-da-da-da, and it's never brought up again. So many examples of that in this movie, and it's just shoddy writing. This is the worst written Star Wars movie ever. So bad. I need you to throw out some positives, man, because besides Leia actually working, then
it's interesting. I had suspected that you weren't going to like it because it does also dabble in some things you didn't like about The Last Jedi.
Yes.
And so I was assuming you wouldn't like it. It is a surprise to me that you hate it more than The Last Jedi. But,
yes. Because I can look at The Last Jedi for as much as I hate it, and I can just say, that's a beautifully shot movie. Mm-hmm. The scene right after Kylo Ren and Rey fight Snoke and then all the Red Guards, and like the entire room is like embers burning around. I'm like, man, that is beautiful. Or when Luke fights Kylo Ren, quote unquote, on the planet, and they have the dust, the red dust.
Yeah.
Like, man, this is a beautiful movie. But I think it's terribly written, and I think that movie is...
Did you not feel that there were those spectacular visual moments in the Rise of Skywalker?
No, I really don't. You talked about Burning Man, and I figured that would be like one example you're throwing out, and I'm like, no, that did nothing for me.
There's a lightsaber fight in the water that is in my top 3 lightsaber fights of all time.
I didn't care for it at all.
I thought it was spectacular. I really thought it was choreographed brilliantly. This movie really picked up for me in the final 30-40 minutes. I wasn't where you were. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know that I could hate a Star Wars movies like you have hated The Last Jedi and this one. I don't know if it's in me to be able to do that because I just love this world so much and I love these characters so much.
Maybe that's the thing. I'm so passionate about it and I've seen it done so well that I have a high standard for it. And I don't want it to come across that I don't love Star Wars.
But have we seen it done so well? What are you talking about when you talk about seeing it done so well?
Like Star Wars done well?
Yeah.
Okay, Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi.
But those are the OGs, right? Like
Rogue One. I think Phantom Menace is a good movie. I think that all
right, that's what I wanted to hear.
I think that the Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon is the best lightsaber fight of all time at the very end of that movie.
I agree with that, by the way.
I think
I think the music makes that scene even better.
The music in that,
the Duel of the Fates.
Is that what it's called? Duel of Fates?
Duel of the Fates, I think, yeah.
Great song. The pod racing is super fun. I didn't like Anakin, whatever, fine. As a kid, they should have just introduced him as Christian Haydenson or whatever his name is, and that would have been fine. We don't need to see kid, Anakin. That just makes the whole Padme thing weird, But this... Here's another problem I have with this movie is if you go back to the original trilogy, New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi, it cements this core group of people, Chewie, Han, Luke, and Leia, as a family now. And in Rise of Skywalker, or in Force Awakens, we're introduced to now Leia. Or not, Rey, Poe, and Finn, know?
Those are our three. Yeah.
And then in Last Jedi, they're all separated.
Yes.
And now in this one, we have to...
I would say purposefully and brilliantly, but continue.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is for an overarching theme, now we're supposed to believe that they're all best of buds and that they've been hanging around forever.
Yeah.
But we were never given enough time with them together for me to just... care.
But don't you think that's true in the OG too? Don't you think Luke, Leia, and Han split up for huge portions of that story? They're off doing their own things. I think that's very similar, in fact. In fact, that's one of the things about this trilogy that kind of remains consistent, like story arc-wise, is it is really kind of aping the story arcs of those original three from the first one, just with different pieces traded to different people. I find that fascinating and interesting, but there's a lot about this one that does feel like things that happened specifically in Empire and Return of the Jedi. So I think that's purposeful. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's the fact that in Empire, Luke is the only one that's separated. Leia and Han are together, and the emotional roller coaster that they go on at the end of Empire Strikes Back, with Han being put in the carbonite and stuff like that, and then being tortured and stuff like that, that helps cement, especially Han and Leia, as a family group, because they're in that together, and then Luke is on the way to try and save them.
Sure.
In Last Jedi, every single one of them.
But I mean, Han's in carbonite for quite a bit of the movie, right? Like,
I think he's only in carbonite for the very end of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in carbonite. Luke gets his hand cut off, and then he gets a new robot hand. Yeah. Ooh. I just thought of something else I'm really mad about that I can't wait to talk about in the spoilers. This movie does something else that I absolutely hate, and it's introducing new aspects of the Force and things that the Force can do that I hate.
And you might want to blame that on Ryan as well.
He did it in Last Jedi for sure.
It's in The Last Jedi.
But I was hoping that they'd just go, no. But no, they
of all the things that bother people about these movies, inventing new Force powers seems the weirdest to me, because isn't that kind of the fun? Like, why are we stuck thinking of this mysterious force as something that, we've never seen it do this, so it can't do anything else? Like, it's one of those things where that's the one. So maybe you can explain it to me. Why does it matter that all of a sudden Jedis or Force users are realizing, I can use the Force to do this thing? Because
whenever I think of the Jedi, and I'm not just talking about for this movie, I'm talking about for
the Star Wars universe in general.
Yep, video games, books, and stuff like that, So when I think of the pinnacle that everybody thinks of, like the highest the Jedi Order or the Sith Order ever got, it's probably the prequels, right? When the Jedi Council was at its,
they were at their peak
and everything. If they couldn't understand or note that these powers existed, how all of a sudden can somebody like Rey or Kylo Ren, who is nowhere near a powerful Jedi as Yoda or Mace Windu or Obi-Wan, who were so powerful and knowledgeable about the Force, how are they not able to do the things that Rey and Kylo Ren are doing in this?
Well,
Do you see what I'm saying?
I think you're showing a prejudice towards nurture over nature.
You got to explain that to me.
So I think when you think of Jedis and their strength and their ability, there are reasons that Rey could be more powerful than any of those Jedis, and they have to do with nature versus nurture. So how much of a Jedi's power is just because of who they are, and how much of it is because of how they've been trained, right? Like, it's almost like talent versus practice. You can hear those things like, let's say with a basketball player, very talented person, but they just didn't put the effort in, didn't practice, so they didn't get up to the same level. Somebody who didn't have a lot of talent, but man, they put the effort in, and now they're one of the best players ever. So there are two different avenues that somebody could be. I mean, Rey, my understanding of Rey is it's the nature part. It's for whatever reason, and the movies don't explain it, thankfully, because Lord knows we don't need any midichlorian conversations anymore. Doesn't really talk about why, but my understanding is that she's just, the Force is, well, they say it, the Force is strong with this one. Like, there's an idea that the Force gravitates to certain people in a stronger way than others, at least as I've understood it.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the Force is super strong with her and Kylo. And so they're able to maybe do things that others couldn't. Yeah. I think that's at least another avenue perspective to look at it from.
Yeah.
So
maybe I'm just coming at it from like, if you haven't cemented it by now, don't introduce new things. Because if you're saying this is the end of the Skywalker trilogy, what benefit do you have of introducing things now?
Well, I can tell you the benefit, because the benefit is how it's used in the movie. I found absolutely spectacular.
I hated it.
I know. Well, I can tell, but I'm telling you, for a lot of us, from my perspective, it is the moment of the movie, and it is the chill bump scene. Like, it is that's cool, And that, at the end of the day, is one of the things I've loved most about watching these movies, even through the prequels, even through the ones that I didn't care for. I think Attack of the Clones is at the bottom for me, like, as far as movies that I didn't connect to.
It's third worst now.
So anyhow, even Attack of the Clones, I am going through it and having a good time, because it's like, that's cool. I love this world. I love the idea of these powers. I love lights. You know what I mean? Like, I'm connected to the universe building in a way that connects me to those feelings. So, it's similar to Marvel, but what's different with Marvel is I've adapted my closeness to Marvel in my adult years. My closeness to Star Wars I adapted in my childhood years. That's hard to shake for me. Like, it brings me back to that childhood sense of awe. And so that moment that happens with that Force power, that's why it's important to introduce, because it allows the storyteller to do something new. It allows them to give you a cool new moment maybe you weren't expecting, because it's different than what we've seen before. So that's why they use it. That doesn't solve the problem of whether or not it should be used. And your perspective is, we should lock off the Force powers at a certain point and quit adding new ones.
Yeah.
My opinion is the opposite. Keep doing cool, creative new things, because I think that's cool. So, I think it's just two different perspectives on how the Force is used.
I don't want this to come across that I don't love Star Wars.
Yeah,
because
it does kind of come across that you don't love Star Wars anymore. So, you may have to wrestle with that.
I don't like this new iteration of Star Wars.
Right.
Like, I liked Force Awakens. I didn't love Force Awakens. I really liked Force Awakens. Hated Last Jedi, and I hated Rise of Skywalker.
I really liked... I loved Force Awakens. Really loved Last Jedi. And I like Rise of Skywalker. I really do have some issues that you haven't even brought up yet. And I'm sure you felt them too. So you want me to go with my negatives?
Yeah, because I'm saving a whole bunch of stuff for spoilers.
All right, I'm just going to give you my two main negatives, and they're big ones for me. And the reason that I don't love this movie. Number one, this might as well have been called Star Wars: The Rise of the MacGuffins.
Yes.
Because this movie is just a series of side quests. It's just...
Yes. It's like they were looking for
once I started talking about the things I didn't like, then we can have our moment.
It's like this group of people is looking around for somebody with an exclamation mark over their head, like, hey, there's a quest giver.
Right. It really does feel like that, and it's unfortunate. And again, part of it is I think that Abrams had so much to do to get to where he wanted to be that he just had to use these things to get our characters moving. Now, because of these side quests, MacGuffins, whatever you want to call them, the movie never really lets up. It's always moving, because we're moving to the next, quote unquote, marker that we have to get to. So, there is, I guess, a positive of that, but it really did bother me. But the main thing that bothered me about this movie and really brought it down probably an entire letter grade for me.
Use your anger.
Stop it. I like this movie. That's not going to change. I did enjoy it. The main thing that bothered me, though, is that this movie does not have the courage of its conviction. And it is the main difference I see between Last Jedi and this movie. This movie would do things that felt meaningful and important
and then retcon
big,
it,
and then immediately take it back.
Yeah,
and
there's one,
and not even give you a chance to even live in it. There's one huge one that we'll talk about in spoilers.
Yeah. If they would have waited till the end of the movie, even
personally, I want to see the movie where they don't take it back.
They don't take it back.
Because that's. See that to me is it, and that's not the only moment that does that in this movie. There are several moments in this movie that's like, here's this big thing that happened. Just kidding. Just barely any time to feel it.
Or they introduce one of those things and then it's thrown by the wayside and never mentioned again.
Yeah, you'll have to give me examples of that. But I saw this more
I got
than that.
plenty.
But what it does is it makes the movie just feel so simple and just so easy, and there's just no risk to it. There's no depth to it, And so at the end of the day, what I lament is that the movie could have been something really special, and they just didn't have the strength to make it special.
Strike it down with all your hatred.
I don't know. That's a big deal to me. And again, to me, that is the difference between The Last Jedi in this movie. For me, The Last Jedi had the strength of its conviction to not pull the punches, to really do some things, and I loved it for that. And actually, even Force Awakens has a moment, or two where they do some big things and they don't have to pull them back. Although Rise of Skywalker kind of pulls one of them back a little bit. So it's just kind of
like. Can you give me an example, like in Force Awakens?
I can. In spoilers.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that I want to now. I think I would make it too obvious to anybody who hasn't seen the movie.
Sure. Okay.
So anyhow, that is my major issue with this movie. And it is enough to bring it down quite a bit for me.
So what have you done your
Yeah, I gave it a B.
You gave it a B?
I gave it a B. I would really have enjoyed a more meaningful,
a better movie,
deeper movie. But yeah, it wasn't that. So I think we're ready to move. I think we've said what we need to say about this.
Yeah.
We could argue about Star Wars all day. I really love that we come at it from different perspectives.
And I do love Star Wars.
Because you're not alone. I guarantee you a lot of people have. I wish the people who had, all the people who had the same perspective as you were as friendly and wonderful about expressing it as you are.
I do love Mandalorian,
right?
And
yeah,
I love the animated series like Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars. I love those. And this new Force Star Wars, like a Fallen Order or Fallen Jedi or whatever it is, there's a new game. Looks great. I want to play it.
Yeah.
So I still do love Star Wars.
Okay, good to know.
It's in my top 10 movies. I think it's like number 4 or 5. So.
Good to know.
So take that.
There you go. The Rise of Skywalker, easily the best movie of the year. Both Andrew and I agree. Everyone run and see it.
Is it going to make your top 41?
No.
No.
No, it's not. My top 41, I have it set and locked, and it caps it. Well, there are a couple of movies I gave a B that did squeeze in. It's been a rough year.
It's been a really bad
year. Last year, everything was B+ and above, and there were only like 3 or 4 B+ in my top 41. Yeah. And this year there are a few Bs, but I think they are, for me, again, it's my favorite list. It's not, I don't do a best list. I do a favorites list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one major problem is enough to even keep it out of my 41. So,
yeah.
So there you go. Surprise, surprise. Ready to move on to Cats?
Yeah.
That you didn't see?
I've seen the play, so I'll
That's true. You've got some perspective.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Cats. I'm going to take a drink. Give Phil an edit point.
Tell me what Rumpelteazer, McCavity, and Mustafa are all up to. See? I know Cats.
Yeah, you do. A tribe of cats must decide yearly which one will ascend to the Heaviside layer and come back to a new life. Okay. Description of Cats, if that's what it's about. I didn't get any of that watching the movie. It has been interesting to see the reaction to the film representation of the hit Broadway play, longest running play on Broadway of all time.
Yeah.
One of the most successful, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats, because people have lost their minds at how horrible and silly this whole endeavor has been.
Yeah.
You didn't see it.
No.
I did.
I think Tom Hooper's a furry now. I think that's what's going on.
You know, it was uncomfortable to me how sensual and I would even say sexual a lot of the scenes in this movie are.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. It was also just like a drug trip of a movie, and I know that the stage play is like this. But when you're doing a stage play, you have hindrances, right?
You give the benefit of the doubt. You can't actually have real cats.
Right?
Yeah.
And so in a film, when you have the ability to use digital effects and you kind of halfway it, where it's still obviously people, but you make their ears and tails move in interesting ways.
Yeah.
Like that just, I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I would have loved this better if they were actually fully digitally, animated cats. And the answer is no. I don't think this is a good property. Did you enjoy the play when you saw it?
Oh, no.
Okay, yeah. It just doesn't...
I don't like Andrew Lloyd Webber, so...
Yeah, I like Phantom.
And I don't like musicals.
That is true. You're already dealing with a stacked deck.
Yeah.
I do like Phantom. I do like Evita. But, man, I don't like this.
How, at least how's the singing in this?
Jennifer Hudson is amazing.
Okay.
Memories, which I think this musical has two good songs. I think it has Memories, which is high quality, great stuff, and Jennifer Hudson absolutely belts it and nails it. And it's the only part of this movie where I was like, okay, maybe this is a worthwhile, 30 seconds of film.
Man, this is just unsettling to look at.
Yeah, and it's not only unsettling to look at, it's boring. This movie is so boring. There's no plot to it. There's no structure. It's just a talent show for cats, and they'll just step up and introduce themselves and then do a tap dance number, or step up and introduce themselves and do a magic act, or it was just I did not have a good time at all with this. I was very much bored. My wife is still waiting to forgive me for taking her to this one. So, did you see what? No, you're not on Twitter. Did you? She said on our car ride home, she said, "We live way too sober a lifestyle to enjoy this movie."
You think that if you took some edibles before you went and saw this?
Well, and then somebody commented afterwards, he said, "Nope, I've tried it the other way. Still awful."
That's awesome.
So yeah, this is. I mean. You could go into details about how ridiculous and silly it is, but I think you get it just by, looking at the stills and watching the trailer, and, there's nothing special about it to make it, work with as crazy and ridiculous as it is.
The way I look at it is, say hypothetically Lion King was a Broadway play first before it was a Disney movie.
Right.
And then they went and they made the animated version,
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, you're like, yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it. If they made Lion King like this, where it's people dressed as lions kind of CGI'd, it would be awful.
Yeah.
Because if you want to talk about Uncanny Valley and how we're supposed to recognize certain facial features and how things are supposed to proportionately line up for us to go, that's real or that's fake, I think this is the worst possible route you could have possibly taken to do a movie.
So I'm going to agree and disagree with you.
But hey, they're going to make it up in a couple weeks whenever Cats 2.0 is released in theaters.
Yeah. I'm going to agree and disagree with you. I'm going to agree with you that it is off-putting. What I'm going to disagree with is I think if there were a better story here, you could almost make it work. Because at the end of the day...
You're saying almost.
Well,
you're still not giving it enough credit to say it's good.
Correct. That's why
could be good. Could be good, I should say.
Correct. That's why I'm agreeing and kind of disagreeing with you. The problem with this movie isn't just how ridiculous it looks. The problem with this property, I should say, not just movie, is the story makes there's nothing to it. It's a bad story. The property itself is bad. I don't understand how this was was a hit Broadway play. I don't get it. I'm wondering now if the actual reason this was so interesting or a Broadway hit is because of the people dressed as cats thing. Like if that was... Because it's certainly not in this, and maybe the song Memories. Again, that is the only thing I can think of that would stick with people. The Mr. Mistopheles song is the other one I think is a decent song.
This is the Idris Elba one, right?
No.
That's...
It's full chorus, but it's the magic, never was there ever a cat so clever as
Never ever
the
was
magical
there ever a cat so clever.
Mr. Mistopheles. I think that's pretty fun. The only thing I can say that could have been better in this movie is if it had found its tone to make fun of how ridiculous it is itself. The problem is when it wants to take itself seriously, it can't.
Yeah.
James Corden is in this and actually I think captures as close to the tone as you can and make it fun. Yeah. He has some moments in this where I actually laughed and I was like, oh, like he is doing something that seems aware of how ridiculous this all is, where everybody else is like, no, I'm acting and it's authentic. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's a way to Fast and Furious it, where it's like, where the movie is aware enough of what it is that it can find the right tone.
Do you think this movie would have been better served if they were just dressed like cats, but they didn't act like cats? Like, the doing this and stuff. Yeah. Like if they just like,
no,
you don't think it would have been funnier?
No, I mean, maybe. I mean, and actually that's kind of part of what Corden does at a couple
is he
points.
Just humans
he humans it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, but no, I just don't know that there's anything that could have saved this. It is that bad. So you dodged a bullet there, buddy.
Yeah.
You dodged a bullet.
Thank you, Chris. Hey, that's my Christmas miracle. Is only reading halfway through the email before I'm like, nice. I got to respond.
Nice. We can move on unless you have any other questions that you weren't. We're not doing a spoiler episode on cats, by the way.
No.
It's, I think it's all out there. All right, let's move on to our final review. Before we do, though, thank you to our SiftPop members. You have made this show possible, both the audio and video version. We were talking in the video pre-show, which you can watch the show live on YouTube every weekend. We're going to try to record Sunday afternoons at 1 p.m. Central. So if you're around, you can view us then. But we were talking a little bit about the fact that we're going to upgrade one of the cameras has a blurry spot in it.
That one.
It's an audio podcast, Andrew. Nobody can see you point.
And tell that to YouTube.
So we are going to upgrade the camera. And the reason we can do that is because of amazing SiftPop members who say, you know what, here's $3 a month to support what you guys do. And thank you for that. We hear from people who say they love the content and it's just a nice way to kind of keep it going. So we really do appreciate it.
You won't have to be big-footed anymore.
That's right.
Always being blurry.
That's right. You can go to patreon.com/SiftPop. Check out all the levels and the different perks that come with it. And again, thank you so much for being a SiftPop member. That's patreon.com/SiftPop. All right, let's talk about 1917. Two British soldiers embark on a dangerous mission to save 1,600 men from certain doom during World War I. Andrew, we've talked about this a little bit already.
Yeah.
So we don't have to go necessarily too much into detail, but I did want to kind of check in and see how it's sitting with you and where you kind of feel this movie is. Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or was it just okay?
Love it. #1 movie of the year.
And there you go. All right. Well, moving on.
Yeah. What'd you think? I know you really liked it, but I don't think it was your #1.
I really enjoyed it. I know exactly where it lands on my top 41, but no spoilers. We're going to wait till that's released on SiftPop to let you know. I will say it is in the upper half for sure.
Yeah.
It is intense. It is beautiful. It is
very beautiful.
Technically, it's an achievement.
We can talk about how it's shot now, can't we?
Well, that it's a one shot. It's a simulated one shot.
Yeah. You can definitely see where some cuts took place, like where they enter a dark room and then they turn on the lamp or something like that. But it's not like Rope,
where the camera goes into somebody's back and then out the other side.
It's more along the lines of Birdman, You can definitely see where some cuts took place, around a corner or something like that. Having said that, though, there are some extremely long one-shots that go without, a hidden cut that are mind-boggling of how, on a technical scale, how difficult it must have been.
Yeah.
And all I got to say is, man, that on top of the amazing acting, but the way that, and we should say that it's Sam Mendes, right? Mm-hmm. Who did this, who does like Casino Royale and all the Bond movies, or most of the new Bond movies. But the way he made this feel so real. The way that, the whole style of trench warfare and stuff like that.
That was one of the most impressive things to me, was the staging and how they could have, because if you take the movie for what it's putting in front of you, that is quite a feat what they did. Now, I believe they cheated it, and there are some ways to cheat it, but it's still impressive.
Yes.
What they did.
Even if you, come at it like, oh, that must have been CGI or whatever, the CGI is so good that it just makes it all feel so real.
There won't be a 1917 2.0 coming out in theaters. They finished their movie.
Sam Mendes knows what to do with the movie. Also, the fact that, yes, this is all one shot, quote unquote, but how this movie transitions from different sceneries and, shows like, yes, there are... It's not all just, trenches and, mud and corpses and stuff, but there's like vibrant colors all of a sudden, or there's things can look so horrifying yet be so beautiful at the same time.
I kind of think that's the overall theme of the movie.
Is finding the beauty in the horror.
Yeah.
Like there's not to give anything away, but there's where he's walking in where they're walking in a city square and things are on fire around him and it's only lit by that. So it's really like black and red and stuff. It's just so beautiful.
I also really enjoy kind of the extended cameo aspect of this movie, where we kind of run into great actors and that we know along the way. Like Andrew Scott is in
Mark
this,
Strong.
Colin Firth. Mark Strong,
Benedict
Cumberbatch. I really enjoyed that part of it. I thought the two guys that played the leads did a great job. Dean Charles Chapman and George McKay.
George McKay killed it in this movie, man.
Yeah. So good. And here's the other thing I will say, and I didn't like it quite as much as you did, but I really did like it.
Yeah.
The other thing is, this movie has possibly the best final 20 minutes of a movie I've seen in the last 5 years.
Say the running.
The last time I remember feeling about this way about the conclusion of a movie was Whiplash. Is the last time I felt this way, where it was like that movie just owned me for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And this movie does. And I was really impressed with the filmmaking. And a lot of what happens before those 20 minutes is the reason that this 20 minutes owns you. But yeah, I really think it was impressive.
Yeah, and to think that the time period that this takes place, not World War I, but I mean like it's less than a day, right?
Right.
Less than 24 hours is when this whole thing takes place. And it feels like...
Or just over 24 hours.
Is it just over 24 hours?
I think it might be just over 24 hours. Yeah.
But they have to get from point A to point B. That's right. It's a basic enough plot. And maybe that's a con for some people that is where
my con comes in. It's not specifically that, but go ahead.
Where it's the simplicity of it doesn't lend itself to, more grandioseness, but I think that it makes it a more personal story. Like whenever this... I feel
agree 100%.
I feel like I'm a third soldier with them.
Yes.
The fact that, you got these two guys, but you're right there with them every step of the way. So you feel like, yes, I'm the third man in this story. They might as well have made this, a one-shot first person, like put a camera on somebody's head and say, hey, come along, come with us, and he kind of, what's
World
that?
War I, streamed live on Twitch.
What's that? There's a first-person shooter movie that came out that had,
Hardcore Harry or Hardcore Henry.
Henry, yeah. They could have done that, but no, just the way this movie's shot is gorgeous. So, expand on your negative of the not simplicity, but
it's not simplicity, but the fact that it's so simple is, in my mind, a bit distracting at times because of how convenient it can be. This movie has some very convenient moments that have to happen for us to really be pulled over. Here's the truth of the matter. Even in a situation like this, 24 hours is going to include some downtime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of one of those things where, I found it to be a bit distracting, where it was like, oh, you just happened to be there? That's interesting. You know, you just happened to run into this person. But that's very minor. And this movie has grown on me since I've seen it.
Really?
I came away from it. Now, I saw it amidst a flurry of movies I was trying to catch up on.
What was it,
21 movies in a week.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's not an excuse. That's just to say when you're in that
I think
mindset.
it is. It's a good excuse, actually.
Well, when you're in that mindset, you need time to, reminisce.
I've been in that situation with you, obviously, before, and sometimes it feels like I'm watching this just to get to the next movie.
Right.
So you're not really giving... I shouldn't say we're not giving every movie our due diligence, but sometimes you begin to appreciate things more afterwards.
I'm just saying I'm human. You know, I'm trying to do my best, but I'm human. So for me, what's grown on me are the themes. Like you said, beauty amongst destruction, I think, is a real theme here. I think the movie takes great pains to start and end in a way that really emphasize that theme. The movie takes great pains to emphasize moments that are both beautiful and destructive, and it wants us to wrestle with whether or not we can have one without the other.
Yes,
and that is kind of the thing that everybody has to wrestle with violence and war. Is, you know, how do they relate? How do beauty and destruction relate? And so I think this movie does a really good job with those themes, and that's what's grown on me since watching it and thinking back on it, is how, and that shouldn't surprise me. Sam Mendes is really good with thematic stuff, so it shouldn't surprise me that that's there. So
I heard somebody say, or I think they said something along the lines of the opening shot in Spectre. That one shot was his student project
for this film,
for this feature length film.
You aren't kidding, man.
Yeah,
we said it when it came out.
Yeah,
like, as much as we didn't love that movie,
that opening
scene is just bonkers cool.
Yeah,
it's great.
Oh, you touched on cameos,
extended cameos. They're really a little more than cameos, but
I want to emphasize though that it doesn't feel like they're throwing out these big name actors just to be like, hey, look who we got. It feels like everybody was used properly.
Totally agree.
It didn't feel like they're because sometimes the word cameo can have like a negative connotation to it, like, oh, look who we got for this movie. They're not really serving any purpose. I think that every single one in this movie serves some purpose that pushes the story forward.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Man, I love this movie so much.
Yeah, definite recommend.
It's, like I said, it's my number one movie of the year.
And I think see it on a biggest screen as you possibly can. It's gorgeous.
I can't even imagine, because,
go full IMAX if you can.
Full IMAX, because I bet the sound design for this just out of this world.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Huge recommend from both of us. You ready to move on to our buried treasure for the week, Mr. Andrew?
Are we not going to do the Sift Sword?
Oh, you know what? We should have done that right after Star Wars. We
don't have to.
No. You had emailed me and said, hey, we need to update our Sift sort for Star Wars. And immediately in my brain, I'm thinking, man, I don't know that we can anymore. Like, I don't know how two people who have such disparate views on Last Jedi and now Rise of Skywalker as well, although I'm closer to you on that, even though you've gone down even a little more. I think I'm closer to you.
Can you give us like a quick rundown of like where we stand with the Sift Sword? Do you have it pulled up?
I don't have it pulled up in front of me. I will do that, but why don't you? I mean, obviously, you've kind of already spoiled you would have it at the bottom. You think Rise of Skywalker is the worst movie?
Yeah, I guess if I were to just going off memory here, so forgive me if I forget anything. It would go from worst to first. It would be Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi, Attack of the Clones, then Revenge of the Sith. Then probably would I put man, I guess I would put Phantom Menace there, even though I like it. Then Rogue One, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and then Empire Strikes Back. I think I mentioned them all.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I actually don't have our official SIFT sort in front of me.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to let us know what episode that was in, I can go look it up, and we can talk about it at a later date. But for me, of the 9, you did more. You did Rogue One and Solo,
I put
and
Rogue
there's
One.
so 11.
Oh, Solo would be like the 4th worst one. Yeah.
Are those the only 2 outside of the Skywalker trilogy?
Yeah.
Okay, Rogue One and
So
Solo.
there's 11 movies, I guess.
Yeah, I would have Attack of the Clones at the bottom.
Yeah, I get it. It's a terrible movie.
Then Phantom Menace.
Oh man.
Then, then I would have. I'm gonna go with. Man, I don't know that I can do this off the top of my head. So
Solo.
Yeah, probably
Revenge of the Sith.
Probably Solo next, then Revenge of the Sith, which I like more than most people. Then I would
You've
have...
got all the prequels done.
Yeah, that's true, and I've got Solo done.
Yep.
Then I would have Return of the Jedi. Okay. Then I would have Rogue One.
Okay.
Then I would have...
now you just have the other 3.
Then I would have... the Rise of Skywalker.
Oh yeah, those garbage movies. I forgot about them.
No. I
already blanked them out. I blanked them out in my head.
I might put Rogue One and Return of the Jedi above Rise of Skywalker. Those are all right around the same place for me. And then I would have A New Hope, Force Awakens, Empire, and Last Jedi would be number 1. So that would be mine. Nice. So the fact that you have Last Jedi at 10 and I have it at 1, it makes for a very difficult SIFT sort.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
All right, let's move on to our buried treasure for the week. What do you got, my friend?
I'm going to go with an old movie that came out back in 1963, but I just rewatched it and it still holds up. I'm going to go with the classic film Jason and the Argonauts.
Oh, going old school.
Man, I love this movie. This is my dad's favorite movie ever. And that's why I just recently rewatched it, because I bought it for him for Christmas on Apple TV. And I share my Apple TV with the whole family. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to rewatch that. Man, that movie holds up. It is good. The stop motion, like clay animation that they do back in the day, man, it's fascinating.
Harryhausen did this, right?
I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that guy was the master, you know. Talos is still like one of the coolest moments in that entire movie. This when he turns his head and Hercules is like, oh snap. It's a fascinating story. It's like all those movies that came out back in the 60s, like this. You had the original Clash of the Titans. You had like the Sinbad, movies. All those movies were just so fun because they really leaned into the mythology and they just owned it. They didn't try and do like all crazy CGI, just to make a story, like, hey, we're just going to take this cool person from mythology and this cool person from mythology. They really, tried to appreciate and honor it. And I will say this, the best thing about this movie is the score, like the brass soundtrack, like just how powerful and just, it makes you want to get up and like work out or something. It's great.
I need to put that on in the morning then.
Yeah. Man,
Nice.
This movie is so fun. If you've never seen this movie, I can't recommend it enough. Even today, it'll hold up.
Very nice. Jason and the Argonauts. Good choice. I'm watching TV again, Andrew.
Are you now?
It's been a while. I watched the 3rd season, I think, of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime. Man, I love this show.
I gave up on it like 4 episodes in.
What was it that didn't? I mean, was there just nothing that drew you in?
It's a fascinating story, about a period piece about a female comic and stuff like that. But maybe it's just something about this particular time period, this 40s, 50s, because I fell into the same problem with like Mad Men. Like I don't get that time period. Like it just is weird for me. So there's something about it. I think, especially New York, that time period. Everybody's got to talk like this. We're on the radio.
I think Rachel Brosnahan is doing incredible work here. One of the things that surprises me the most about this show is how good the stand-up comedy she's doing is. And I'm not saying it's like next level great. But what I am saying is it doesn't
for the time.
Well, what I am saying is it doesn't fall into the Studio 60 at the Sunset Strip or 30 Rock trap of like the stuff that's supposed to be, great stuff on TV.
Yeah.
You can tell wasn't written by a great sketch comedian. You know what I mean? Like the stand-up here feels really good. Now, it does feel a little too polished. To be actual, like she goes on and riffs impromptu these incredible runs.
Like when she gets
every
angry,
time.
she angry rants. And
It's just perfectly written and everything. So there is that, but I want that because it's fun. It's kind of the Sorkin thing. It's like, I know people don't talk like that, but I love it, like bring it on. So I really enjoy that. Tony Shalhoub is so fun in this series. They added
He's just an angry man.
They added Zachary Levi last year, and he is so much fun. Kevin Pollak, who is also one of my favorites in this as well. So I have a great time with this show. I love also that actual real comedians and people from that time are a part of the show, like Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce is in it, yeah.
And then there are others like Moms Mabley was in this, last season. And what's fascinating for me is especially the Lenny Bruce stuff, is based on actual appearances he had on certain shows.
I didn't know that.
And so you can go look up the original and compare it, and it's kind of astonishing how well they represent what he was doing and those kind of things. So I don't know. It's a fascinating show to me. I enjoy it. I have a great time.
Wait, does this take place in New York or San Francisco?
You know what? I'm such not a city boy that I thought it was New York. Yeah, it's Upper West Side. It's New York Upper West Side.
I thought Lenny Bruce was from San Francisco.
Well, they're comics. They travel all around.
Sure.
So you can't be a stand-up comic and not hit New York every once in a while.
Fair enough. But you're digging it. This new scene that it just
I've watched the whole thing. Yeah,
did it just dropped recently.
Yeah, my wife and I binged it over last weekend and this weekend. So over the course of a few days.
Well, sweet sauce, man.
And enjoyed it very, very much. So yeah, check out The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Only 3 seasons. Very easy to pop in if you haven't started.
10 episodes a season, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 10.
Nice.
And that's on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out. Well, there you go. We did it, man.
Well, you did it. I did 2/3 of it.
We have survived the wars of the stars.
Yeah.
We are the stars, and we are at war.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far, far away.
A long time ago on a podcast far, far away.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for SiftPop this week. We do appreciate it. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. If you want to find out more about other shows on the network, you can go to studiodna.media, or you can search Studio DNA in your podcast player. That's all one word. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out.
Thank you.
Huge thanks to Phil for producing the show.
Phil, we love you.
And thank you to you for supporting the show as a SiftPop member at patreon.com/SiftPop. Support starts at $3 a month, and you get access to every bonus episode, as well as some other fun perks, including a monthly video hangout. That's patreon.com/SiftPop.
Use your PayPal.
There are a lot of ways to connect with the podcast. You can comment, rate, or leave a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Or you can email us, feedback@siftpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably enjoy the show too. So make sure you let them know about it, and that listening is much easier than understanding a lick of what jellicle means. What is a jellicle cat? Can somebody tell me?
I thought you were like naming some weird character from Star Wars.
No.
I know Calico Cat.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe if one of them's named Evan, be an evangelical cat.
Hey.
Go to church.
Dad joke. Got him.
Next week we will be back with the SiftPop Movie Awards. So we will be doing the best of 2019, and we'll see you then. Oh, and of course, Star Wars spoilers.
Oh yeah.
Up next in your feed. All right, YouTube audience, you have been amazing. Striker Watch says, "Good show, old boy." Well, thank you.
Good show, old chap.
David says, "Good old Ray Harryhausen effects." Yep, awesome stuff. Seth dropped by. My friend Seth Hurd says, "What up, guys?" He says, "I'm going to be sad if 1917 isn't the next Saving Private Ryan." I think they're completely different movies.
Yeah, different wars.
But both great. Both great. Striker Watch says, "Make Andrew go back to review the enhanced version of Cats." That's not a bad idea. You should go check out
You know
2.0.
what? You know what? I will. I promise I will, because Alamo gave me 2 free passes to go see 2 free movies.
Yeah.
I'll spend one of those to see Cats 2.0.
Wow, that is commitment right there.
If you had to sit through it, I should have to sit through it, because we're a team, Aaron.
That's right, we are.
Phil, you want to go see a movie? No? Okay.
In fact, Phil was very clear coming in. He was like, there's nothing you can say today that will make me want to go see Cats. So I was like, wow. Just laying it down. Let's see. Slab says, what was that? Oh, after Andrew's Last Jedi review, I knew he would hate this one. So called it.
Oh.
And that's.
I wish you would have told me.
Anyways, thank you for hanging out with us.
Yes, thank you guys.
There will be no live video next week for the movie awards, and there will be no live video for the most anticipated of 2020. But then we will get back into live video at some point, probably following the award season and that kind of thing. Maybe for a week in between there. Who knows? But we will see you then.
Bye.
Thank you.